Hello, this is J.N.S, and today we are continuing with the Divine Feminine series, and we are on part 6. And part 6 is titled Honeycomb Mind, the original Monarch Mentalism of the Divine Feminine to invoke archetypes in the prime conscious mind. So this is very important because for black women, a lot of us are dealing with fragmentation of the mind. Now, this could be due to trauma that is systematic. This can be due to childhood traumas, or it could be generationally. This could even be systematic in a sense of where you get into more of the occult via MK Ultra. And so when we talk about honeycomb mind, we're talking about how society, this particular society on Earth, fragments the mind of women. And this has been going on for thousands of years. It wasn't always that way. And so they took a particular teaching that was from the Divine Feminine called Monarch Mentalism and perverted it and reversed engineered it to be able to fragment the mind of people, of women in particular. But they did this to be able to control them easier. So they did this to all melanated people, by the way. And so what this video is going to do is elucidate on the Monarch Mentalism as it once originally was, as it was designed by the Order of Kali, that was given to the Atlanteans, that was given to the Earth Realm, and then secret societies from the Earth Realm took the information, hid it, reversed engineered it so that they can control society. That's pretty much what we're talking about. And we're going to talk about the ways in which black women in particular, who are the progenitors of the human race, who have this Eve gene. We talked about the chaos intelligence gene. We talked about the chaos intelligence realm. We're going to bring that back because that being, the black woman, that is the one has been targeted for this fragmentation of the mind in particular. Now, all of society has dealt with fragmentation of the mind via the systems, particularly the isms, the system of fundamentalist religion, racism. All of that, believe it or not, fragments the mind. It fragments the mind to this honeycomb pattern. Now, that is called trauma-based mind control. Now, what we're talking about when we're talking about the Monarch Mentalism is we're going to talk about the original form of what that was for. That was not for mind control. It was not trauma-based. It was for royal bloodlines that had positions of power in terms of like your emperors, your kings, your queens. It was for them to be able to access certain dimensions of archetypes. So this would be what you guys would call gods, various gods, or even angels or spirits or whatever, for them to harness that energy, inculcate it within their prime conscious mind, and be able to harness their power. And so that's what it was originally for, so that they could get access and downloads and programs right through the prime conscious mind that would enable them to make decisions better, to run society, to run civilizations and empires, dynasties, and in other dimensions, perhaps even whole planets. Okay? And so that is what the original Monarch Mentalism was for. It was designed by the Divine Feminine, very high powerful beings from the Chaos Intelligence realm, from the Order of Kali, who were members of the Dragon Riders. Now, we know the descendants of the Dragon Riders that are on planet Earth are melanated bloodlines from the Jew and Egyptian pantheon, as well as in some of the Dragon Riders descendants can be found in West Africa as well, and in the Americas, and some of them are in Europe as well. And so this was a specific bloodline that has been systematically fragmented. And so we're going to talk about what all of that looks like. Okay, so stay tuned. It's a very heavy video. It's not going to be like all fluffy and juicy like the last one that we talked about with the relationships. This is a very heavy one. So if you have issues with esoteric knowledge and knowledge of this nature, dealing with metaphysics, this may not be for you. We will get into, if you're interested though in some of the more of the psychological aspects of it, we will be breaking down on a scientific level the phenomena of honeycomb modulation, grid-like modulation of the brain for spatial visualization. That is backed with research that is something that you can go look up yourself. And so, you may want to stay for some of the more empirical things we're going to talk about regarding this honeycomb mind phenomena. Okay, and so again, this is for the black woman who has been dealing with any type of fragmentation of the mind. If you have been a person who has been generationally blocked by, say, your family selling out your bloodline through an oath or a pact, people have done this with black women, especially black Americans in the hood. Many of you are victims of this. You may not know it. You may not want to believe it or accept it. Or you ran to the church or whatever. But many of your bloodline, many of your ancestors have sold your bloodline out through pacts and oaths to certain orders, occult orders. And so you may have been put unknowingly in MK Ultra program. You may have been sacrificed to certain deities where your mind has been fragmented at a very subliminal level that you may not even be aware of. Black women and black men, all of society. And then you have that fragmentation that can be due to that trauma. That could be systematic trauma or just happenstance. Believe it or not, even when we talk about the phenomena, and we're going to go deep, ladies, even if we talk about the phenomena of the fatherlessness, believe it or not, that is a part of the fragmentation of the mind. And so whatever way you want to look at it, whether it's a father in a home that is not committed or not married to the parent, or they're active in the child's life but they're not with the mother, or the father has just walked away and completely abandoned the family, that is fragmentation to the child. Now, I'll explain this and walk with me, because I'll give you an example of what this looks like. You can usually find this in the music industry, by the way. A lot of times when you think of why would somebody just abandon their children, and white men were doing this, by the way, to the black kids during slavery, so they mixed black kids during slavery, by the way. This is also a part of the satanic fragmentation of a subliminal form of MK Ultra, by the way. So, but it's much deeper, because the reason why a man would do this is because they're passing off a load. They're passing off a load to an unsuspecting female via the fertilization of getting her pregnant. She's going to get pregnant. She's going to birth this human soul. And the load that father had within him was passed off to that child. Believe it or not, a lot of it's done on purpose. They had no intention on actually taking care of the kid. So the kid actually walks away with the curse or the trauma or whatever the father was trying to pass off, unbeknownst to the woman and the child, and he walks away. That's what's happening in the black community. That's what happens in many communities, and particularly that's what the white slave plantation owners were doing to their mixed that's what they were doing. They were using black women to pass off the loads. Now, what kind of loads are we talking about? We're talking about the deal system that's set up here. That is pretty much a secret to some of you. Most of you, those who know, but the deal system and the system in which those who are a part of orders, are a part of pacts, are a part of oaths, are a part of organizations that are very clandestine and very powerful, to move up in certain ranks and to move up in certain, or to even make certain deals, or you would be required to do certain acts. Usually that could be even the fragmentation of their own mind through sex magic, or that could be through signing of something or a deal of something, or participating in a particular ritual, and then to get rid of that energy within the spinal that's built up in the fluid through either the sex magic or through the particular ritual that particular man did. They would go around and then turn and pass it off to another person. Now, they'll do that through sex with a female. That's the easiest way to get rid of it. To get rid of the karma, the whatever, the spiritual residue, pretty much from whatever oath or whatever pact or whatever deal or whatever they got into. They'll go to an unsuspecting woman. Usually they don't even really prefer the prostitute energy, because even the prostitutes are very good at transmuting that energy. Some of the prostitutes know about this, so they safeguard themselves, but it's usually the women that don't know shit. They go and get those women pregnant, pass off the load, and walk away from the child and the mother. This is why you see the fatherlessness phenomena in the black community. Not all the time. Some of it is just, I'm talking about for some of us, not every single black American. For some of us, that is what this is about. Now you wonder why you have a situation like Nick Cannon. After he got in trouble with them folks, right? He got in trouble with them folks, pissed off them folks, act like he was about that life, like he's some revolutionary, and then he folded when they pulled his collar. Then all of a sudden he goes out and he gets all these women pregnant, not marrying none of them, not really, all of these women pregnant, 12 children, all the, back to back, just different women. What is he doing? What is he doing? He's passing off loads to them children. Whatever them folks required him to do to keep what he has and to get off of his back, he had to go and pass that energy off somewhere. And so that's why you see these stupid ass women, they thinking, oh, he got a bag, he got this money, he gonna pay child support for the next 18 years. They don't know what none of this is about. So they take on that load. He's passing off the load to the woman. She's taking it in. Then they're gonna pass it off to the kid. And to be honest, those kids are collateral damage. The women and the children are collateral damage, by the way. And when it comes to these type of high profile men. And it happens all the time. And it doesn't even have to be high profile. Sometimes it can be done to actually get out of a situation. You'll pass the load on to the woman and the children. Like with my bloodline, it was literally done for a person that made a pact with satanic pacts and orders or whatever. It was done for them to get out, to pass the spirit, to pass that energy that was on him, to break out of it onto mother and children. I'm telling you, I'm dealing with this stuff to this day, so I know what I'm talking about. I know what it's like. I know exactly what I'm talking about, dealing with this honeycomb and this fragmentation or whatever. Okay? And so once you pass this loads off of the father who has been fragmented, obviously that epigenetics is gonna pass on to the child. So the child already has the generational capacity, the gene capacity for fragmentation of the mind. On top of dealing with the trauma of the fatherlessness, of a father walking away, and this idea of the single parent phenomenon, that also adds to the trauma. That also further fragments the mind. Okay. Now, some of you have been generationally involved in these occult orders or whatever, and so you literally may be dealing with generations of honeycomb fragmentation of the mind through trauma-based mind control that has been generational. Everybody's in on it. Grandma started it. Grandma is a part of the order. Grandpa is a part of the order. Y'all been doing it generationally. That's all you know. That's all you know. That's all they know. And so it's just been happening with all of the bloodlines, and you're trained in it. You're brought up in it. Like when you talk about even at the high levels, like the Order of Melchizedek, the Order of the Mother of Darkness. I'm telling you, this stuff is generational. You just don't find your way in it. And it has been a perversion of certain teachings, the melanated teachings in general. And so that's what we're talking about today. And so I wanted to break that down in terms of, like, a lot of the times with the black children and the black American children that are dealing with this fatherlessness, and even the Caribbean children. Let me just get back to my thought. It's systematic in a sense where, yeah, you may have circumstances and conditions of poverty and all this stuff, and systematic racism that causes these conditions, but some of it is very intentional, and that's all I'm saying. And for this video, when we're talking about the fragmentation of the mind, if you're a woman that has dealt with your father walking away, and you know that you might have some bloodline ties to occult orders, that could be one of the reasons for it in terms of passing off the load. You'll know if you have fragmentation of the mind, if you're dealing with certain traumas, certain things you just can't shake that seem spiritual, like certain spirits around that you the same spirit keep manifesting in everybody you meet, in terms of you just can't shake it, or you have some generational issues with generational poverty and all of that. A lot of that times those were loads that got passed around, certain bloodlines that were sacrificed, in terms of generational poverty. generational molestation. This is a deep conversation, ladies. So this is what I'm saying. A lot of you Black Americans, you know what I'm talking about. You have generations of molestation in your family. You have generations of poverty in your family. You have generations of just random ill fortunes. A lot of that was lows that got passed on to your mother or you. It could be done from the father. It could have been done by the mother. Sometimes it's not always, blaming the men. Sometimes it was the mother that got into the packs, into the oaths, and passed on the load to you. Sometimes both of the parents was in on that shit. Sometimes the whole family was in on that shit. Anybody remember the situation with Kanika Jenkins? And she always come to me and tell me, ooh, I ain't even gonna get into that, because if you notice, everybody that tried to speak out about what happened to her that was real close to that situation, you see what happened to her. Okay, but this is serious in the Black American culture. Because a lot of these Black Americans, y'all want to sit up there, the big bad systematic white supremacist system is doing this to us, and they're doing this to this. But you engaging in that system on a very occult level. Many of you are involved in them orders that are not of your own teachings, that are perverted teachings from your original sciences, but you still dealing with them folks. You're still dealing with that system. And so many of you have fragmentation of the mind. Due to, again, the passing of the loads. And now we're talking about that's the generational aspect of it, okay? That's the generational aspect of it, of a spiritual way of how this works. Of how you could be fragmented as a woman if you're dealing with fatherlessness. The next one is, again, if it's systematic. We covered that a little bit too. If it's systematic, where your family bloodline is in an occult order, where they literally signed up to put you in certain Monarch programs. This could be MK Ultra, trauma-based mind control. That could also be, that's where the systematic generational molestation comes in, Black folk or Black woman. That's where that comes in. And it's, again, this is not just a melanated people thing, because this is global. So if you are a woman that happens to be watching this and you realize, okay, she I'm not melanated, but you see this same stuff in your family, and a lot of times, to be honest, the European is the one that perverted our sciences. It perverted monarch mentalism. So you're gonna see this a lot more, believe it or not. Not even believe it or not, it's not that far-fetched. You're gonna see this in the European society, the quote-unquote Caucasian, the quote-unquote white person. They dealt with this a lot too, with the generational traumas, with the MK Ultra, and through the systematic molestation of the children, fragmentation of mind. We know the Europeans, they got all types of things that they do with these kids, especially at certain levels. And so this goes for those women as well. But if you have been one of those people, and many of you Black women, I've met so many Black women growing up that told me, they were touched as a child, that they were violated as a child, sometimes by multiple family members, by the men. Sometimes, they talk about this, and then they say their mother knew about it, or they say their grandma knew about it. Nobody did nothing. The whole family knew about it. You're most likely a victim of some sort of occult ritual order, where they're harnessing your energy as a baby, when you were a child, and they were snatching your essence up, and they were in on it, and they allowed it to happen, and so that fragmented your mind. So you're dealing with honeycomb mind, okay? And we're gonna get to some solutions, baby. So don't feel like, okay, all this is triggering. I promise you, we will get to some solutions on how to deal with the fragmentation of the mind and how to transmute that into a blessing. Because anybody with a honeycomb mind actually have access to gifts. And so don't, feel like, oh my gosh, I'm ruined. Do not do that. Stay with me. Okay, it's heavy. We will get to some solutions. I'm telling you from experience, I'm a victim of this honeycomb mind stuff. Not through the molestation, but through the occult orders and the sacrifices and pacts that my bloodline made. I'm talking from experience here, okay? And so we're just covering it. Okay, so if you're one of those baby girls that have been touched as a child, and you realize, okay, seeing the systematic, that your parents is in orders, or They always involved with the church. The pastor did it. You know, sometimes we got that going on too. You certainly want to, consider that this could be the fragmentation of the mind to honeycomb you, and it is unfortunately most likely they were tapping into your energy as a child, because the most powerful, potent, purest energy that you can use is that of a child. You're not supposed to do that, obviously, but this is what people do, and this is what they've done with our Monarch mentalism teachings of the divine feminine, of the chaos intelligence realm, that they took and perverted and reversed engineered because they couldn't understand it, or their vibration wasn't high enough to do it through the intergalactic mentalism. All this stuff can be done just through the mind. All is mental. The universe is mental. So this was originally was supposed to just be a mental science that got taken and perverted. Okay, and so that is obviously the other cause of a fragmentation of the mind. The other one is childhood beating. You know, sometimes, some of your parents whooped your ass too much. They were emotionally abusive. They were physically and emotionally abusive. Any type of that's fragmentation of the mind. It's going to honeycomb you. Sometimes that is just dysfunction. Just happenstance dysfunction on the parent part. They wasn't loved. They don't know shit. So they projected that onto you. They didn't know better. You got that situation. Or it could also be systematic, satanic, trauma-based mind control. Your parents are in some type of order, and they have made some sort of deals. And part of these deals and pacts that they make, to systematically abuse you, to knock you down. And many black women are talking about this, okay? And so you may be one of those women. And so let's get down to breaking down the phenomena of honeycomb mind, okay? And so once we get into the solutions, we're going to talk about the Monarch mentalism, the divine feminine, how to put it back together, and then we're going to talk about the philosophy that I created. The Nakhti philosophy was designed to deal with not just fragmentation of the mind. It's a science, it's a mental science that teaches the intergalactic mentalism of the divine feminine, of the chaos intelligence realm, rather, because it's for men as well. But the Nakhti philosophy teaches how to is a whole chapter on how to deal with fragmentation of the mind for those who are dealing with that. But it's also a way to organize the chambers of the mind so that you can transmute pain, so that you can choose your own state of consciousness, and so that you can manifest easier, and so that you can transcend as well. So you're choosing a state of consciousness that you want to be at based on your goals and based on your individual self-efficacy, based on where you're at that particular time, and based on the techniques in the book. You would be able to transmute that energy if it's painful, or you're looking at the snapshot of your state of consciousness, of all of the content in your mind, and you're reprogramming your mind. You're either going to reprogram your mind, you're either going to keep the programs the same, or you're going to add new programs. And so the Nakhti philosophy teaches that. And if you're fragmented, you're going to do some techniques, and there's some meditations in the book. There's certain things that you do to transmute the inauspicious content of your mind, the content that does not serve you. And you're going to add new programs in to get you to propel you to the next level. This is all intergalactic mentalism. You won't need to do anything outside of yourself, So we'll talk about that in a bit. Okay, so let's talk about honeycomb mind phenomenon, and we'll talk about the hexagon. Obviously, when you see a honeycomb, it's a hexagon shape. Okay, and so this is an ancient symbol. This is an ancient symbol that is representative of Metatron's cube. Okay, it's a symbolism of the flower of life and the Kabbalistic tree of life. So here we're going to get it. For those of you that know some stuff, that has some family dealings with this, we'll put some things together for you. So, it's also in Pythagorean symmetry. Now, obviously, this is connected to the planet Saturn in the occult. Now, again, there's been a perversion of all of these teachings of the chaos intelligence realm, which is not necessarily Saturn, but Saturn is looked at as the Crow Mother system. Sister, it is a satellite that is a part of the military order of the chaos intelligence realm. We call it GIA, that monitors planet Earth. This was perverted, and they made this weird energy. They perverted the planet of Saturn to like this weird energy called Chronos, that had to do with Satan and sacrifice blood, all types of weird, creepy stuff that they was doing. And it's like even a book about Saturn, a cult book about Saturn, where there's a male biting off the head of a child and all this crazy. Like that is so creepy to the founders and to the originators of the planet of Saturn, but also of the Chaos Intelligence Realm, who has ties with Saturn. Like, that looks creepy. That's like strange to us. It's like, what did you do? What the fuck is wrong with y'all? Like, and so this was obviously the overthrow of the divine feminine and the queen mothership, even engendered such folly. Not to mention the overthrow of the melanated empires and dynasties and bloodlines that were here. That's where you get some nonsense like that, where stuff is out of balance. That should have told everybody right then and there that it was out of balance. And for melanated people to be going along with that shit, it's like, it's sad. But they are. It's many of them that are. Many black Americans are going along with that. But that's where this hexagon shape has this ties to the Metatron's cube and to Saturn. Okay, and so the honeycomb is obviously made up of hexagonal prisms. Okay, and so it's considered by like the ancient philosophers to be this manifestation of divine harmony in nature. And its construction was usually associated with insight and wisdom. So again, from the Chaos Intelligence realm, this was always this divine feminine energy that's associated with wisdom. Obviously, you can create bees. Human. I don't even want to get too deep. But there's a ritual called Bergonia where you can create bees. We taught that to humans because we wanted them to know the importance of bees, so that's why you see bees have this very powerful symbol, very powerful influence in the esoteric sciences, and it's for one of those reasons, because bees represent a lot of harmony with nature, a lot of the divine harmony with nature, and that's why you see like women always talk about the beehive and bees. Bees are inherently feminine, of the feminine order. And so we wanted humans to study the bees, to really get a lot of information from them. And believe it or not, a lot of black Americans, one of our black American inventors studied bees and learned so much, became one of the most renowned inventors in the world. It was either Percy Julian, was he the one that studied, I believe it's the one that created the blood bank, or the pacemaker. George Washington Carver also studied bees, but that was what it was designed to do, to push. You weren't supposed to study bees and then try to mimic, not necessarily that. It was supposed to study their organization, their creativity, their genius, so that you could harness that energy and do this inventing. Believe it or not, a lot of the inventors studied bees or birds, okay? Nikola Tesla studied birds, talked to birds, got a little obsessed with the birds. Leonardo da Vinci studied bees, studied birds. George Washington Carver studied bees, studied birds, okay? And so that's what we were, that is why we emphasized bees originally. Okay, and also the hexagon with the bees, it's symbolic of the carbon molecule as well. The carbon molecule also is symbolic of the hexagon. Okay, and since all humans and most life on our world contains carbon, the hexagon pattern becomes important once again. And so when we talk about this honeycomb pattern, the hexagon, that was another reason why it was emphasized in the ancient times. And also the hexagonal chain of molecules, the alpha and beta polypeptides, represents also this on a molecular level within ourselves, divine wisdom and divine harmony. Okay, so you're looking outside, you're looking within, and you're seeing these representations of nature even within the human essence itself. You're seeing this sense of the microcosm and the macrocosm. The microcosm is oneself, and the macrocosm is the universe. So when we talked about the honeycomb and the bees, that's all from the Chaos Intelligence realm. As far as some of the royal bloodlines that knew this science originally, that is why we did this. Okay. the hexagonal pattern of the honeycomb also had a connection to, there was a bee goddess. Okay, there was a goddess of the bees in ancient times, and that was a symbolism of the beehive. But it also became to what the esoteric societies did was took this information and related it to media and films. Okay, and so now you see it going into a different type of thing in terms of the industry. And so we'll talk a little bit about the honeycomb in the films before we get a little bit more scientific. We will get back into the science of how this relates to the mind, but we'll talk about this in the media now. Let's talk about the honeycomb thing in the media. And so there was a horror film called The Cabin in the Woods, and so it just shows like this. It was a powerful force field that separated realities or dimensions. Okay, so it separates dimensions that's comprised of hexagons forming this honeycomb pattern. Okay, and it talks about life as an illusion theme, where the reality is not what one would think it is, and so the honeycomb is acting as a net. It's a honeycomb pattern that you would see on, like, say, the actual nets, that to show this illusory veil, this energy net concealing the true nature of reality. And so when we talk about the honeycomb in the mind, in Monarch Mentalism as it originally was, again, it was this understanding of this illusory aspects of reality, but then to be able to tap into these other dimensions, and this could be archetypal in a sense, the archetypal dimensions of certain gods and entities to take on this energy. This is what down here you guys will call an altar. We didn't necessarily call that an altar. That was more because it wasn't meant to control a person. Monarch Mentalism was not meant to control. It was meant to actually empower, so that the person on their own volition would choose which oversouls or which archetypes they would take on at any shift. And within them being very aware that they have honeycomb mind, they would switch out the power or the energy that they need based on those particular decisions, based on the programs and the downloads that they put in their mind on their own through so this is what the Nakhti philosophy teaches. If you look at the Nakhti philosophy, we don't tell you which programs to put in your mind. We just show you the technique to do it. You have to choose what program you put in your mind, and that is why the powers that be monitor. You know, when that book came out, it was first published, and I got the proofread of that book. They let me know clear as they sent that proofread all fucked up and jacked up, and had, as soon as I opened it up, it mentioned the CIA. Literally, they put random pages in my book about the CIA and the FBI. It was letting me know, bitch, we watching your ass. I don't know who you is or who you be. Well, they knew who I was and who I be, but they was looking like, oh, what is it? They couldn't understand it though. You know, they was like, what kind of? But we want to know, we on your ass. Okay, we got your gematria, we got your natal chart, we know who you are. We've tracked your bloodline for thousands of years, honey, and all shit. You don't, all shit. And so they doubled down on me when I came out with the Nakhti philosophy 3 years ago, in 2020. You know, but if you really look at it for what it was, this original version of Monarch Mentalism, again, it was to teach our royal, the interdimensional beings that would be sent down here, or that would be in positions of rulership, whether that be pharaohs, whether that be kings, queens, emperors, and it was all over the world, because it was the Atlantean was a dimension. Atlantis was a dimension that descended to Earth that was in all continents. We had people from that dimension on all continents on this planet to teach this science and to teach the royal bloodlines, those IPUs, because they were all descendants. Most of these people were descendants of the Dragon Riders anyways. And so the Nakhti philosophy, it does not teach you what programs and downloads that you need to have. It may give you a suggestion, but ultimately you are in control of those programs and downloads, like the royal kings and queens were. And from there, they would decide which archetypes, or not even archetypes. Sometimes it could be something very simple, like the program of being an amazing chess player, the program of being an amazing defense fighter. Just like in the Matrix movie, when you see what's that, Neo, I think his name is Neo, right? When Neo, when he says I need a karate or something of that nature, and they go in and they download it into his brain real quick. That's pretty much what Monarch Mentalism was originally about. It wasn't to trauma base induce someone so that you can control them and have insert alters and entities in them so that you can say a trigger and then they do whatever you want. That was the perversion that the males did from our ancient sciences of the divine feminine, from our order. Black man had something a little bit to do with it, but the white man took it to a whole nother level with the Satanism stuff. But to be honest, he took that science, the melanated man took that science and tried to figure out a way to reverse engineer so that he could control black women. Because he got tired of matriarchy. He got tired. He looking around and he's seeing all these other men completely clobber and dominate their women. And it's like, okay, I'm the king, whatever, but I got queen mothers making final decisions, and queen mothers all on my back. Queen mothers got to do all my rituals for me. Got to do all my magic for me. Because that's what, to be honest, we weren't really telling them. You know, the queen mothers weren't handling that for the men. You know, even the pharaohs. We talking about they got 10, 15 priestesses on payroll doing the things whatever the king needs. You know, so he wasn't doing shit. But again, they were vanity projects. But they were powerful, and we knew they were powerful, you know, and we respected that. But this whole system this queen mother matriarchal system that was in melanated society, whether that be in Americas or in Africa, to be honest, the black man got tired of it. You know, and the black woman could be a bit much like y'all be, she probably doing too much micromanaging, you know. And sometimes, and black men to this day have a problem with the black woman because of that power. He still haven't really figured out a way to really, take, that full power over her. Like he was trying to figure out, fuck that all the white men got a hold of it. All the karma, the queen mothers, they was cursing left and right. Oh, really? You want to overthrow me and you gonna sell me off into sex slavery and all this to this European for some money? Really? Oh, okay. And so this is what the melanated woman was doing when the sibyls were getting killed, when the oracles were getting systematically murdered, because these were the ones that were the most powerful. These were the ones that knew the monarch mentalism, and with a look or with a twinkle of an eye can literally make the rain and make shit thunder. Can literally point to your ass and you'll have your ass fucking have a heart attack. Black women, absolutely. And so once the black man realized this, he like, yo, we gotta get rid of these queen mothers. We gotta get rid of the men that's supporting this matriarchal shit. That men that's down with this order. All of the quote unquote, they call them mama boys, or what they would call today simps. All of them, we gotta get rid of all of them first, cause they the ones that's gonna put up the fight, that's loyal to the queen mothership. And then we gonna got these oracle bitches, the civil women like me, pretty much. We were the first ones to go, and the queens, women like me. And any woman in a leadership position. And then the concubine that was already jealous of the queen mothers, that were already jealous of the oracle's power, they sided with the men anyways, because they didn't have any power. So it was like, well, here I roll with you. You give me you put me in a position of a false feminine, the false divine, the false mother. Put the false mother in a position and get rid of the real crone mother, the chaos intelligence mother. And as you can see, all this backfired. Look at melanated people today. And so say that to say that was done in terms of where you see this perversion of the monarch mentalism from the divine feminine, in terms of how we just teach you how to teach our royal bloodline, whether it was male or female, how to download these programs, program your mind, access dimensions, access archetypes. Sometimes it don't have to be all dimensional. Sometimes it could be something very basic and earth-based, such as just knowing how to be a great warrior. But other times it would be you need the full-blown energy. You need the full-blown energy of a Tahuti. You need the full-blown energy of a Sekhmet. You need the full-blown energy of a god, And so we were teaching that as well. And these teachings of the monarch mentalism, the divine feminine aspect of it, certainly could be found in Egypt, in Africa. anywhere there where there was the Atlantean version of Masonry, anywhere there was the original version that came from the Order of Kali. All of this came down from the planet Earth through the interdimensionally. So I know they like to come after me. The person that founded all this stuff, my bloodline founded all this stuff, by the way, thousands of years ago. And you have a record of, you know, in genealogy, you can tell like who's related to like some of the founders of like the Knights Templar and all this stuff. This is deeper than just that too. This is deeper than any Earth-based shit. The Earth-based version is all these Earth-based versions are fucked up with all the information. Okay, but this stuff it came down from a higher realm. So I'm just letting you know how it started to get perverted. It started to get perverted because the melanated man wanted to figure out a way how to control the black woman so he can get in power, overthrow the Queen Mothership. So he did this through perverting the Monarch mentalism through trauma-based mind control of the females, but also he also got into some genetic splicing and even gene altering. Like he went ham, and it was a war between the divine feminine and the divine masculine amongst melanated people. It surely was, absolutely, and they fought. Divine feminine of the melanated woman loses. She gets sold into sex trafficked and in slavery and all this stuff to the foreigners, and then foreigners come back and get black man, do it to him, and they do it to all melanated people, and then we all fucked up. It was all by design. You could study this. This is the biggest thing, and this is why the conscious community and all these niggas, they really never really liked me, even though they know my information is excellent, and I'm one of the excellent teacher, I have excellent information, I have excellent insight. The reason why there's such a shadow on a lot of the work that I talk about is because the black gatekeepers and it's not just black boule gatekeepers, that's not what I'm talking about. There's other forms of gatekeepers that are melanated. They don't want this information getting out, even though it's the first step in healing and it's the first step of getting in power. For one, because they took a deal to make sure that melanated people don't ever get in power via the suppression of the natural teachings of the melanated people sciences. So they in on the deal. They on it. They took their oath to make sure that melanated people stay where they at, and that particularly melanated women stay where they're at. But even when it comes to like, there's even melanated male orders that don't like what I'm talking about. They're trying to understand it, like what's going on. You know, and then there's other melanated orders that are working with the system, with these inorganic beings to continue to have things where it's at, so that they benefit, but the rest of melanated society suffers. That's why you see Black Americans in conditions that they are in, with their lack of reparations, their lack of the things that the disparities and the things that Black Americans go through. That's why you see Indian. That's why you see Africa looking the way that the fuck Africa looks, because of the deals that certain bloodlines that are the power brokers within melanated people globally, they have sold out pretty much whole tribes, believe it or not. And so, for those who want context onto how did Monarch mentalism get perverted, that's how. And then obviously when a white man gets hold of it, he can't understand it. He thinking, he misinterpreting all types of shit. Oh, this means Satan. Oh, this mean this. This mean we gotta do this to children. This mean we gotta take this. Oh, this means we gotta reverse engineer everything. This mean, you know, and he didn't know what the fuck was going on. You know, and because he saw what he saw, he learned from the melanated man. And the melanated man didn't really understand what the teachings of the divine feminine, of the chaos intelligence realm. Really didn't understand that either. And so, well, like we said, stolen knowledge has cursed the world. You know, and then that even go deeper, because we don't want to talk about how we talk about like the interdimensional beings and we call them, you guys would probably refer to them as fallen angels, but how this happened as above so below. So this happened in a different, this played out, again, things play out in time and space differently. So when you see things happen in one dimension, that could be a higher dimension, you'll see it play out on Earth, and it'll look different. So the divine feminine war, this outbreak of the overthrow of the Queen Mothership, they attempted to do that in a higher dimension. It failed, and it was sent down here. Now, you still had matriarchies on planet Earth, again, but things have to play out in time and space differently. So this same energy of this overthrow of the divine feminine, it was still, that energy was still already over here. They were just looking for a way to be able to do it. They just didn't know how to do it, so they were trying to figure out a way of studying this black woman, studying her methods, studying her sciences. And so for while we had matriarchies for thousands of years, this is again, watching stuff play out in time and space. And so eventually they figured out a way of enough knowledge of how to reverse engineer the things, started their own brotherhoods, and started whammy bamming the melanated woman. Okay, so I think you guys should understand that this idea of this honeycomb, because that gives you access to the mechanisms of the universe, the dimensions and archetypes of the universe, or what to be able to harness those energies for what downloads and programs you need to run a civilization, to run an empire. Mind you, this stuff started, like in Shaman King, where you saw like the kids playing around with the oversouls and going to the competitions to prove who was the most powerful esoterically as far as their magic. That's kind of how we ran it originally. However, you didn't actually like have to die or anything. It was more so like imagine that would be akin to, the best way I could explain this would be akin to putting, two people in a VR reality or an AR reality, and the VR reality has the program. Say the virtual reality has the programs and downloads that one would need, and so the virtual imagine you got those goggles in your head with the virtual reality, and they're like you're flipping through the programs that you need. You're taking then the whole environment switches based off of that program. Your whole your whole grid like spatial modulation, and then based on that program, you're going to work on harnessing that energy. This is the best way I can explain that for Earth-based level. This, however, occurs all through the mind space. You don't necessarily need those goggles as far as like the VR goggles or the AR. You don't really need that. It's just this is the best way I can explain it. And so take that situation and then take a situation like with Shaman King, and you would see how the original Monarch mentalism was to train children. And again, it's like watching the show Avatar, and you see how he was getting his training with Aang, was learning through the process of mastering earth, water, air, fire, and you see how he was learning how to open up the chakras. I was learning how to meditate. I was learning how to let go of attachment. Waking up a Kundalini energy at 9 years old. A child could do that through meditation. So what they did down here, and this is what we taught in the Chaos Intelligence Room, all of the angels that are like children, they would learn that. That's like a 5 to 10-year-old learning how to awaken the Kundalini energy through the 33 vertebrae. The fallen angels knew this. So when they came down here to teach the humans this information, they didn't quite, because it was women teaching them that. They didn't quite know how to do it. And so they figured out that one way you could do it is through the honeycomb, or the fragmentation of the mind, through violating children sexually. And that's how they would do it. Okay? That is not what that meant. Again, this is a misinterpretations of the teachings. That is not what Monarch mentalism required at all, under any circumstances, to violate a child, to fragment it, to honeycomb their mind, and to awaken their Kundalini energy. You didn't have to do that way. Again, that's a perversion of the divine feminine teachings. And this is why beings from the Chaos Intelligence Realm are literally on this planet talking to you guys. Many of them are melanated women. Some of them are melanated men. It's trying to teach humanity, like, this is what are you guys doing? This is what this originally meant. And not all of them are melanated. Some of them from the Chaos Intelligence Room have come in a meat suit, avatar meat suit human body, possibly as a different ethnicity. And so, this idea, of the child going through this training process, that is what it originally was, and that was because that child would most likely be an heir to a throne, an heir to an empire, an heir to a universe, possibly an heir to a whole planet. And so they would go through like this AR, VR, virtual reality type training where they would choose what kind of programs it's supposed to be a fun thing. It's supposed to be fun. And this is what you like. You watch Avatar, you see Aang getting up, ready to learn how to master water, how to master earth. That's how Monarch Mentalism was supposed to be. This is supposed to be fun ass training. You know, not what happened down here on this earth where you do this trauma based thing and a child don't know what the hell going on and you doing it so that you can control them like a robot. So this is what a lot of MK Ultra children go through. The Disney kids, come on, you guys already know this. I ain't saying nothing new. I'm just setting the record straight from the bloodline, my bloodline, who are descendants that started this whole thing. Not the whole thing of what you see now. I'm talking about the chaos intelligence realm, the Atlantean, that with the Atlantean DNA, the DNA of the dragon riders, the DNA of the primordial mother, that energy, that bloodline. We are back, ancient ones, to correct a lot of this folly. It doesn't mean people are going to listen. It just means the information is out there, because there's other mechanisms that are in place that are way above even my pay grade, that I don't have to do anything as Kali, that the adjutants and that other there's other things at play going on down here where I don't have to do anything but what I'm doing now. Okay, and this universe and this earth and everything is still balancing out and still doing what needs to be done in terms of the justice and the balance of what needs to be on planet Earth. It's not up to any one person to take that task on, right? It's a collective effort, and it's also above the pay grade of even the humans, the species that are the inorganic species that are running this system. Any interdimensional being it's above the pay grade of all of us. What's happening on planet Earth. Okay, so we just watching the shit play out. I'm just teaching, pretty much. That's my role, and I'm a mystic. That's the movie role I'm playing. Okay. And so when we talk about this honeycomb, you see it again. The themes, the True Blood had a theme of the honeycomb as well. The relationship between the cosmic and timeless concepts within True Blood can also be, those themes can also be seen, and I believe that is in they're saying season 6, where there was mentions of when there was alluding to this honeycomb thing. So that was just to give you like how this looks like in the media. Okay, and so the honeycomb, it has a symbolic meaning. Because it's used to describe cells in the Matrix too. So now you see, like, when you look at the Matrix movie, or you look at any type of Matrix grid, you see this honeycomb shape. So let's actually talk about the spiritual, the symbolic meaning of the way bees store honey. Okay. So, honey is a spiritual input. It's a spiritual input. So, a honeycomb is symbolically a place in the body where spiritual input can be stored. Okay, so now you understand what honeycomb mind is. In Monarch Mentalism, the spiritual input of the downloads and the programs of the archetypes and the ability to access, again, the mechanisms of the universe would be stored in the body. That's where the spiritual input can be stored in the brain, honeycomb mind. And so, a honeycomb is like it's a bunch of cells that can be placed in the room, and in the area of memory of where that spiritual input would be, is where it could be harnessed, where it would actually be materialized. Okay. And so that is, again, what the original Monarch Mentalism was about, in terms of having an individual program and download the archetypes of the spiritual input that they will want in their brain, that they can harness But as you can see down here with the satanic version, with the MK Ultra version, is one in which you induce trauma on the child to insert the altars themselves, or the entities themselves, and then through triggers and through, you know, dissociative tactics, you would get the child to behave in the manner in which you want. This is mind control. This is what happened on planet Earth. This happened on very small levels. It's not just like, oh, you got to be in these powerful orders, or come from this rich background, or anything like this. This is happening in the hood too. Many of your family, your brothers, your uncles, your fathers are into weird ass societies where this shit is going down, straight up. And that's why you see, like, you'll see black women talk about, like, oh, my uncle did this to me, and then nobody did nothing. And again, it's all part of the programming. Or you see, like, I've seen black women tell me that their mothers just straight up abused them. Their mothers did all this crazy stuff to them. And it seems systematic because it was done on purpose. They was honeycomb. They was inducing trauma on you on purpose so that they can control you for whatever deal, whatever pact that they made, and so they can control you and lead you to a certain path, lead your life towards a certain path. Sometimes the parent would be so fucking jealous, they'll lead your path to straight death. It'll be a sacrifice. You do all these things, and they'll reap the benefits on the back end. Sometimes it could be the parent leading you towards Satanism to help run this, to keep the system going. That's what black Americans involved in. I'm talking from experience. Okay, so now let's get into more of the science of this. So the European American research, there was a team from, let me just get the institute, so if anybody who wants to look this stuff up themselves, the Max Planck Institute for Human Cognitive and Brain Sciences. Okay, so they have already proved the presence of grid-like activity in the human brain, just naturally. Okay, and this is done through electrophysiological data. This is what they used to prove that there is already like this grid-like honeycomb activity that occurs in the brain. And they used various methods to visualize this grid cell activity while the subjects explored images of everyday scenes. Remember, I was telling you about in Monarch Mentalism, you would it's like being in a virtual reality where you would see, once the program that downloaded you would see these images, and you would through the mental mind science, what would happen is this: you would have this let me get the proper. You would have this electrophysiological activity occur because of your environment, because of the VR, because of the download that you're looking at. Remind you, it's like an image, and that would in turn allow you access to the various archetype or the various dimension. Okay, and so that's what that's like. I'm just giving you some research that already shows, like, okay, what I'm talking about is not far-fetched. Okay, so let's keep going. Also, there's called place cells that are already that's in the human hippocampus. That's in charge of coding one's spatial position. Okay, now these are grid cells that are similar to a type of brain cell, and those are the basic building blocks of spatial navigation. So now we're talking about dimensional travel. You know, it's like this spatial navigation from our perspective is the first step to understanding interdimensional travel. Okay, so you're storing a range of places that are uniformly dispersed throughout multiple brain areas. That results in the honeycomb pattern. Okay, and that can be observed in the eternal cortex. I'm probably pronouncing that wrong. Cortex. Okay. And so when we talk about the Monarch Mentalism of the Divine Feminine, again, you're shown your environment, because this is in the chaos intelligence realm. It runs very differently because The time and space is instant. There is no time. So it's like everything is instant. There's no delay. And so if you're thinking about the program and download that you need, your environment switches instantly. So you're in this VR game, and that is that's the building blocks of your spatial navigation, in which you're going to store those particular downloads and programs right into the brain. Now that is where you don't have any time delay. On planet Earth, it looks a bit different. So the best way to explain that on planet Earth is to put your ass in a virtual reality video game and have you download the programs that you want, and then build your spatial navigation through your brain that way. That's how you will get the honeycomb pattern in the brain here on planet Earth with the delay, until you guys can raise your vibration high enough to where you won't need the virtual reality, where you won't have the delay. But if you guys are asking like, well, how you telling us this information, it ain't no good because we ain't in the chaos intelligence room. We'll be bringing it down here. And so I'm telling you, the best way to do it is through the virtual reality game. You would design virtual reality games for programs and downloads that you want in your brain. So all you would do, you invent them. You have to design them and invent them. Because right now, the VR games they got on the market, they kind of trash, to be honest. But they got some cool ones for like exercising. You know, they got some cool ones for like dancing. Those ones are cool. But if you want some of the high level shit, like where you learning karate, where you learning, you know, how to be a good warrior, how to be a X-Men, you know, how to even do some of the cool stuff. Now, if you want to know some of the intergalactic stuff, that's you're going to see VR games literally tap into the energies of the entities of archetypes, the Kalis, the Durgas, the Tahutis, the Ganeshas, the Hanuman. You actually have to build that out. To be honest, the powers that be most likely will never. Again, the system is backwards, so that we're not there yet. I wish we was. We could be. And they put a lot of occult stuff out. Like, they be putting stuff about, like, I know there's like some video games that talk about Tiamat and all this stuff. So they'll put some of that stuff out there. But I'm talking about like if we were to bring the Monarch mentalism back as it originally was, that is what would need to happen. Or you get rid of the time delay. Some of you guys have transcended time. So many of you humans have transcended time already and can do things with your mind that you don't want anybody else in this world to know. And so for you, if you are one of those melanated women, or women period, or human period, that understand what I'm saying and understand and already can circumnavigate time with the delays and do things through your mind, just through the mind space, you good money. You don't need nothing. You don't have to worry about none of that stuff. I'm talking about the people that's on the lower level. But if you're already up there and you can do these things with your mind and don't have the time delay, you can do this with your mind. You don't need VR, AR. You don't need trauma-based mind control. You don't need to take nobody's energy. You don't need to touch no kid or no shit like that, or be touched as a kid, or go and insert entities through anal. You know what? So that's another way they do it. I'm just giving you some game. I'm just giving you some game as a chaos intelligence being. You do with it what you want. You could just ignore it and go on about your very life, for all I care. Seriously. And so guess what? Now, remember we just talked about how the the grid cells in the hippocampus that's in charge of coding one's spatial position through those images that we talked about. That spatial coding principles are the basis for your higher cognitive performance. Now you see why we do Monarch mentalism to begin with. That forms the basis of the higher cognitive performance, and is also in the field of perception, is also aids in decision making. So that is why the divine feminine came up with Monarch mentalism, to help those that were in the power positions, in terms of the ones we sent down here, and even the ones that's bloodlines, rulers, for them to do the decision making, and for them to have higher cognitive performances based on the training of the spatial navigation of the brain, whatever codes they were going to put in their brain, whatever programming they were going to put in their brain. Okay, so now let's talk about hexadirectional mapping of visual space. That's what this phenomenon is called, by the way. It's called hexadirectional mapping of visual space. That is what Monarch Mentalism, if you wanted to bring it down like in scientific terms, that's what that would be. And so you're pretty much creating like this grid-like modulation of electromagnetic and intracranial electrophysiological activity related to the exploration of visual space. Now I will reword that, and that's instead of visual space, a dimension. And electromagnetism just refers to the electricity that is obviously a combination of electrons and protons and whatnot, and that deals with the magnetic attraction between that, and between forces, between atoms at a subatomic particle level. Intracranial just means inside of the skull. So the electromagnetism inside of the skull, the electrons and the protons inside of the skull. The electrophysiological activity, that just your bodily functions, that has to do with your photons. Now we get into the light, the different types of wave particle. Okay, we're talking about the photons. We're talking about your infrared ray here. Your body generates radiation. Your body generates photons. Photons is a quantum unit of light energy. Okay, and so that's related to the exploration of dimension. Okay, that's what grid-like modulation, that's what hexadirectional mapping of visual space was. This is what the original Monarch Mentalism was teaching humans, and that we sent from the chaos intelligence realm to that we gave to the Atlantean dimension, and the Atlantean dimension came here and gave you guys, and you guys fucked it up. Not all that it was your fault. Again, there were certain actors. Again, that's not humanity's fault. That was certain actors that were in power that fucked it up for everybody. That sold out people, pretty much sold out bloodlines, and that's what really happened. So for a random human watching this video, don't think that like I'm blaming you for humanity for how this science got perverted. Okay, and so the impulses from the cells, from the electromagnetic energy, based on the images that you're being shown, based on the VR that you're creating, based on the dimensions that you're exploring, is going to generate maps of cognitive spaces. And then that's how you're going to then cognitively arrange and retain the complexity of the internal external environments. So that's how you're harnessing the energy of that dimension or that archetype. Okay? Through that electromagnetic and intracranial electrophysiological activity. Through that exploration of the dimension of the visual space. That could be images, that could be the AR, that could be the VR if you're on the lower level. And again, that would be the image of that, even that archetype. Studying, that's why yantras. Remember yantras? If anybody that know what a yantra is, go look it up. It's a grid, like that's what mandala. That these were images that represent dimensions, that represent archetypes. You look at the Kali yantra, be careful. So I looked at the Kali yantra. Whew! She said, "You want to ride? You're fucking with a big dog. You ready?" I said, "Yep." Boom! 215 earthquakes in one day in a span of 2 hours. But we won't go there. But yeah, this shit is real. And so I'm teaching you some heavy shit, black woman. Go and look at a yantra. Y'all be looking at they got the V's with the loas, and I have a lot of respect for the Haitian Vodun, so don't think I'm trying to disrespect you guys at all. The Haitian loas, this is spelled LWAS, have come to me. I don't go and mess with stuff that you know what I mean. Like they have to come to me. Any guy that has come to me, any guy that you see me talking about, or they have came to me, I do not go searching, because I just don't have to at this point. But even when you look at you see that's what that is, them V's. Monarch Mentalism, this was designed by black women, by the way. You go and you look at the V's, look at the Ogun Vive, or the Izili Dante, or the Izili Frida, Baron Samedi. You look at these V's and you start looking and you start active. Some of you motherfuckers got them tattooed on you. That real shit. You tapping into their damn archetype. And if you were if you one of the people that was MK Ultra as a kid, or in part any sort of Monarch Mentalism, that energy is on you. You don't got it tattooed on you, or you looking at it. Many of you women, you go and look at the Zilli Frida Vive, you know, you're looking at it, or you got altar up and you got some stuff doing. What do you think you're doing? You're practicing intergalactic mentalism. We're practicing Monarch mentalism. And you're looking at that image. It's giving off it's a modulation, looking at that yantra. It's electromagnetic and intracranial. You're building up electromagnetism between the visual space. Okay? It's part of your environment. That energy from that Vive or that yantra, or even that altar, even that image. It can just even be an image. That's why they, a lot of the religions don't like you get into the idols and stuff. And you're going to download that program. It's a download. Now she's gonna, because that energy is gonna download that program into your motherfucking ass, and that's the archetype. And that's the energy that you need to access their power or their gifts or their knowledge. That's what happens. Now you got their power. Now and it's a dimension. It's an archetype. So it's not like you took their power, because that's why there's so many people that love Izili Dansor. It's the patron of Haiti, mother of Haiti. And they all got her altars and got Vives or got all types of things, and they're tapping into that collective reservoir of consciousness. It's a reservoir of consciousness. They're taking on that archetype. They're taking on that energy, and it's a lot of energy to take on. And so that's why you see like the Vives and you see the yantras and these ancient symbols. That's what this stuff was up. This is what it was about. It's a part of the original Monarch mentalism that was designed by melanated women and gave to teach the melanated man, and he used it against us. White man gets a hold of it, he uses it against them, melanated folk, and they use it for different reasons. Some people use it on the individual level to benefit their lives, and they end up fucking shit up, And we all had experience, especially if you're a chaos magician of any kind. You know that you bump your head a couple of times, maybe a lot of times you bump your head with this stuff, okay? And then sometimes you're not bumping your head. Sometimes if you're a chaos and you're a renegade, you chaos and you renegade, and I'm talking in code for some of you black women, and sometimes you are doing the right thing, and you got it, and you really powerful in an organization that is not renegade, but that's really wants that stuff to remain secret. They'll come after you to fuck you up and try to scare you away from tapping into that stuff too. That's all. That can be also something too, black women. A lot of that black stuff been happening to you, black women, where you think it's your ritual. Some of them, the gods are mad at you. The gods are angry at you for tapping into that energy. But really, it be the organization, the whole coven attacking your ass because they see like, oh shit, this renegade is out here telling it, but they don't even realize that some of you are interdimensional beings, and they, or that you are the bloodline descendant, or literally the avatar that created all of this shit. And so it's like you coming after the person that, like, what, And so some of you guys are gonna see that happen in your very lives, and so back to what we're talking about. And so this is the grid-like coding in the brain that happens. So I'm giving you some really good game for those that can apply it, especially if you're at the advanced level. Or you can just, this stuff is in the Bible too, by the way. This is what Yeshua was trying to, because I know some of y'all, that's some dark devil. This is what Yeshua was coming down here to teach as well. You can try to teach it, and they done hid all his stuff and then jacked up his stuff and got him out the paint. They came after his ass too for that. That's the real reason. They don't want to talk. I'm writing a whole book on that. We don't even want to talk about the real reason why what they did. They got you all thinking that. Oh God. But we have been trying to get this stuff down to humans for a long time, because we always wanted you guys advance. We wanted you guys to awaken the God within. Okay, and awaken the God consciousness and to be one with God. Remember when Jesus said, "I and the Father are one." Me and the Father are one. Or if you're Hindu, you see Atman and is Brahman. Brahman is Atman. It's the same damn concept. Okay, it's literally the same meaning. Okay, so the grid-like coding, it also goes beyond mapping the environment. Okay, it also goes beyond just the visual image. Okay, that the grid cell system could provide this general neural code. And so it also, once you look at these images and it maps your environment, and you are generating this electromagnetic intracranial activity within the brain, and downloading and cognitively arranging internal and external environment via the integration of those archetypes, you're obviously obtaining this code that alters your cognitive function. Okay, and what happens once this brain is grid is coded with the grid-like activities of the dimensions and archetypes that you want, they're going to communicate with one another. Study how bees in a honeycomb hive communicate. That is exactly how the neurocodes communicate. That's how you're supposed to maintain consistency throughout, your dimensionality, throughout your life, and throughout, your rulership or your reign. That is how you maintain your consistency, through the neurocode link that's going to connect the grid in the brain through all of the dimensions and archetypes that you take on. Okay, so the same way you see the bees communicate through the honeycombs, that's the same way the brain does it. It conducts vibration. Okay, and there's studies on this have shown that bees detect and respond across the hive through vibration, by the way. And that's how they're so methodical. That's how they're so genius. Because once you have all of these archetypes, all of these dimensions that you have access to, through your own volition and through your own logic and through your own capacity as an agent that deals with this monarch mentalism, as a ruler, as a royal bloodline, you would be able to go from switch at will in a very logical manner, in a very conscious manner. This is not somebody supposed to be saying a trigger and you just go off to like how they do down here with the MK Ultra stuff. You're supposed to be able to switch at will based on what is needed in their circumstances at that time. So say like you in ancient Egypt again, and you have the Temple of Karnak, and you need a certain symmetry or whatever. I want to just think of something. Maybe not the Temple of Karnak is a good example, but let's just say you're an ancient pharaoh and you want to build a certain temple to say like Sekhmet that needs to also generate electromagnetism for the earth, and you need that to be aligned with the constellations. As a pharaoh, you need to be able to tap into maybe not necessarily just the Sekhmet energy, but you need, let's say, the Imhotep archetype, because you need some certain codes. Or I'm trying to think of, is it Imhotep is another one that's really brilliant. Nakhti was really brilliant too, but you need a certain archetype that helps you with math to build out this stuff, or an archetype that's really good in astrology. You would at will access the archetype that's really good with astrology. Boom, I get the downloads from that, harness the energy of that, map that out, give it to your adjutants or your team and they would be checking this stuff too. And then you would switch at will, get the math codes, build out the math how you want it to look, give it to your team. You're building this out, you in real time. Then say you need an Atlantean, you need a Tahuti because you need to understand some of the codes of Freemasonry to build some of this stuff out. You tap into his energy, boom, 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 and then you building out this constellation. You got the astrology, you got your mathematics, you got the architect skills. What else would you need to build that temple of Sekhmet? You may need, and then you may need the Sekhmet energy of some sort or whatever. But you're pretty much building that stuff out. Then you're gonna give those you're building that prototype out via, like, say, some sort of schematics. You're gonna give that schematics to your team as a pharaoh, and they're gonna build that and organize that all for you. And they'll bring the vision to life. They'll get whoever the workers, they're not workers, but the construction workers rather, to build out the whole temple, the astrologers, the mathematicians. They would all help in that vision. However, the vision will come from the pharaoh. The vision will come from the pharaoh. The final calculations, the checkings of the mathematics, to even ensure that the shit is even correct, the pharaoh would be able to go and tap into archetypes and dimensions to get that information as well at will, from back to back. And remember the hexagon shaped cell, the grid like function of the brain through the neural codes, they're gonna vibrate, so they're able to connect very coherently. This is I'm telling you this from experience. Now, what they do down here with the MK Ultra is they'll put a bunch of handlers on a person to drug them, and the person that got the talent, that got the gifts, that's the star, or that's the leader, or whatever, or that's the ruler, even the president, what they'll do is they'll reverse it, where they drug the person with the bloodline, with the gifts and the talent, drug them up or fuck them up, or have them not focused on the business, have them trauma based. They probably had suffered some sort of molestation, some side of trauma as a kid, and they'll put some handlers around them, and the handlers tell the leader or the star, whoever it is, what to do and how to do it and if the star acts up, or if in order to control them easier, they'll say a trigger, put the altar will come out based on the trauma that they went through, and then the star would do whatever they want. It's suggested. They go under hypnosis and all that. That is what they do. This is what you guys been doing down here. This is the satanic version, perverted, wrong version of Monarch mentalism. Now, this was reverse engineered. I'm giving you what it originally was. You don't have to do anything, but this is why your systems look the way it looks. This is why you do not have another pyramid. This is why you cannot even build the pyramids, because you're reverse engineered, because the people that are in charge, these inorganic reptilian, whatever this is, this whatever this is, people say it's the white man, whatever. Whoever this is, that the people that got the power now don't know what the fuck they doing. I'm just keeping it above. They ran your system into the ground. And so that is why your shit looks the way it looks. And that is why they pretty much reversed engineered everything so that they can have control. Real power of the ancient ones, the real power of the original OGs that ran this shit. For one, the information we needed society to be aware of astrology and certain sciences and certain knowledge, because our visions, you guys would have to help us build our visions for the greater good of society, of yourself, and for us. So it was in our best interest that you knew constellations and how to calculate, that you knew how to work with the electromagnetic field to build these pyramids, to do this levitation of certain heavy items and all this. This was very important for humans to know this stuff. And so it wasn't hidden at this time. For one, it was very clear that the pharaoh was in charge, that these were related. They were related to interdimensional beings. That is why the pharaohs said they descended from the gods themselves. It's for a reason. Same within China and in America. So we descend from the gods ourselves, because they really did. And they would be in charge of the civilization. And so you might have a feudalism thing going, or you may have a different type of system, and then obviously power gets to some people's heads, and so they'll set up unfair caste systems and all this stuff. And some do worry about their power, but back in the day, it wasn't. You weren't really worried about obsession with controlling the minds of a civilization, because your power was very much self-evident. It wasn't questioned. Especially you had teams of Sibyls, the black, you had the melanated woman ass around running the shit. She'd look up, she'd point at your ass, and your ass have a heart attack, you die. You're going against the king or her or the order. So it wasn't a big deal for humans to know high level shit. High level, because our vibrations was high as fuck, for one. And we also believed in God, and we believed in that fairness. So because we answered to those archetypes and those energies, and we believed in being in balance, or they'll cause a drought, or certain things would happen to us if we didn't follow the universal laws. You know what I mean? The universal laws of the creator God. And creator God looks different in different IPUs via different land masses, different countries, whatever. But for those who were the descendants of the royal bloodlines, that is what it was originally for. Whatever the hell you got now, I don't know what the hell you guys are doing. Oh my God, it's like, what the hell? And I'm a victim of being put in these Monarch programs with the MK Ultra stuff, so I know what it looks like. You know, I had to uncover a lot of things on my own in terms of what my family and bloodline was involved in terms of the ancient orders, secret orders that got perverted throughout lifetimes, males joining satanic orders, all types of shit. So I had to deal with this shit from firsthand experience, and I had a lot of people help me break, you know, with the stuff I've been going through. You know, I can't just say I did it all on my own, or it was just Kali Ma, or it was the primary. I know it was God. I know God helped me through it, but I know for a fact that there were other people that saw what I was going through. Even occultists saw what I was going through. Other magicians, esotericists, priests, pastors. They knew, because a lot of people on this planet can see interdimensionally. They can see into the astral realm. So when I didn't know what I was going on, and when I didn't know, other people, other people knew, and so they set things up for me to help me out, put clues in front of me, left clues, came up dreams, so many dreams. I mean, you wouldn't believe some of the women that came forward. It was a black woman. She was old enough to be my mom. I'll never forget. And she said, within 5 minutes of talking to me, she knew I was in a Monarch she said, you're in a government program that you don't know nothing about, and somebody got you involved in one of your parents. She said it, and I didn't believe her. I thought she was crazy. I thought she was crazy as cat shit. I was looking at her like, what in the world? And she was trying to explain to me. Then she come with this book. Then she came with these videos. She's trying to show me about these interdimensional beings and how there's interdimensional beings on this planet. And she was giving me different names and the different species of them. And she was like, see. And then she was trying to show how it was all linked to the government. And I thought that lady had lost her. And I remember she got so sad. She said, you're not ready yet. You're not ready yet. This was years ago. She was trying to show me. She said, you're being watched. She said, everything you do is surveillanced. Everything you do. She said, it's not. She says, no way. She said, it's not normal for you to know the amount of knowledge that you know. Because at that time, the way I was talking, I've been talking like this for a long time. She said, it's not normal for you to know the amount of knowledge that you know. And she said, the way you know it. And she said, she said, you in the program. And she was trying to show me. Then she went and showed me like how the founders of Sears and like how the founders of like some of these big time billion-dollar companies were going into the hood. You know, like not the founders, but like the founders were funding it, is what I'll say. The founders was funding these programs where they would go into the hood, talk with the parents and stuff, and get the parents involved with certain stuff. Sometimes the parents was involved in an actual secret society or whatnot, but if they weren't, what she was showing me was more so like how during the Harlem Renaissance, none of that was by design. Like all them black people that became poets and musicians in the Harlem Renaissance, that was all social engineering, psyop programming. The founder of Sears and the founder of some of these other societies, they have funded these programs to go and look for black talented kids in the hood that they would invest in terms of funding their art, funding their music, or making sure that they stay on a path, pretty much programming them to where they stay on a certain path or whatever. And that's where you get the idea of a Harlem Renaissance. They do this in the music industry, obviously. They do this with even like, they did this a project where they monitor like kids in the hood and put them in this program to where they would all be doctors. And all 35 kids, and these kids that came from no means, and they put them in a Monarch program where they pretty much MK'd Ultra they ass throughout their whole life, and they all became doctors. And sometimes it's good to say they do it to save the child, because sometimes I'm telling you, some parents they really be really ready to sacrifice their own kid or do some horrific stuff to their kid, so the government would step in. Like, I won't say the government, but like some of the power players that got more power than them, they'll see what's going on or what's going to happen to that child, and they already can see in the astral. Some of the people that have this, that's in power positions or power brokers, they can actually see the future, or they can see what that kid is going to do, and so they'll see it and they'll step in and they'll deviate, they'll throw roadblocks to prevent that kid from getting harmed, from getting killed, or to do the opposite. Sometimes it is to do the opposite, but in my situation, and people had told me this. Like, I remember that same lady that said you in this program, she took me up to a mountain, and we had no cell phones, and she said, them people try to save your life. She said, whoever wrote, because she knew. She said it's a group of people that's trying to save, in the government that's trying to save your life. And she said it's others. And then, she just wasn't talking, because I remember I freaked out because I started seeing this pattern. The reason why we was up at the mountain with no phone and no stuff, because I freaked out and was about to, like, I freaked out because I saw weird shit happening. Motherfuckers following me, people taking pictures outside of my apartment. I saw, I had a LinkedIn at the time, and I saw, like, certain companies and institutions just following me, or, like, I was in a foster care system in New York, and then, like, one of the directors of the foster care system in New York State started following me, like, on Twitter, on LinkedIn, or one of them. And I thought that was weird, because she was the granddaughter of a billionaire. The billionaire, she was like related to the billionaire. It was either Charlie Munger or Warren Buffett, one of them. Charlie Munger, one of them. But this thing is, next thing you know, directors from, like, Berkshire Hathaway started following me on LinkedIn. It just got creepy. Like, something about this whole thing got creepy. And that's when I realized I started suspecting it. I'm like, these motherfuckers trying to kill me. I just freaked out. I was like, oh my God, they're trying to, because I just knew, intuitively. I said, why is all this, I'm seeing, and I'm looking outside my window, and the person acting like they looking up at a tree. And then I leave my house and go around, and I see them taking pictures, and I'm looking like, what the, and they thinking I left, and I'm watching them though, So I saw that. This was years ago. This was damn near almost a decade ago. So I saw all this stuff going on. So it freaked me out. And when the director of the foster care systems in New York State started following me, and I looked her up and found out that she was, like, related to one of them billionaires. And then I started seeing that same billionaire, who was the chairman of that same company, them directors, following me on LinkedIn. I freaked out. I was like, oh, hell no. Because there's other stuff that also, in my undergrad years, when I was really young, that still had same connections with this particular bloodline that I recognized. So I started, and I called her, and I said, something's not right. This was the same person that had initially told me that you were in some type of program that you'd be in. The first thing she said was, you in a foster care system? I said, yeah. She said, oh, yeah, you're in some type of, she had already, within 5 minutes of meeting me, she said she asked me, she said, you was in a foster care system, or was you ever awarded a state? And I said, yeah. And that's when she said, oh, it makes sense now. And she said, you were in a government program. And I was just like, what the hell? She said, you don't know that your parents, she said, something ain't right. So when I had started seeing all of that stuff, with the following all that, I freaked out, called her, she picked me up, we went to Stone Mountain. We just started talking, and that's when she told me, she's like, she said, I don't know why you shocked her, but she was like, you don't have to worry about anything. If they were going to do something, she did tell me, she's like, stop freaking out, and you don't have to worry about anything. And maybe that was a lie, because I did eventually have to, I did start freaking out, even more when I started picking up on signs and codes and all this stuff, because there was a lot of deception around me. There's a lot of deception around me, and a lot of people that do want, me out pain. And so at this point, even though she said that, and that was years ago, maybe at that time she was right, as far as, like, there was nothing to worry about. Now I don't know. I wouldn't necessarily say that. I know that there's been several assassination attempts on my life, and so I wouldn't say that there's nothing to worry about now. But I remember back then, I did take that advice, and I just let it go. It took me years to figure out what the hell she meant and stuff, but now everything's come full circle, and I find out, how deep this rabbit hole go with this Monarch stuff, with this program stuff. It's real. And so a lot of you may be in that situation. Okay? And so a lot of you may be dealing with honeycomb mind as well, like me. I've literally dealt with honeycomb mind in a different sense, because again, I went through the ward of the state, but mine was a little bit different in terms of dissociative tactics that was done through a different type of a way. And I do think that there was people stepping in to try to prevent certain actors in my life from carrying out their agenda of what they eventually wanted to do to me, in terms of the sacrificing of the bloodline, and sacrificing through this Monarch program. You know, I do think there were actors involved trying to prevent that, but I am someone that dealt with that, and so that's what I'm trying to get to. And I told you in one of the Chaos Intelligence video how the gods, or how the entities that I was sacrificed to who already found the whole practice abhorrent because they realized it was a bastardized version of their teachings anyways, so they took that and switched it around for me. And that is why, you know, though you see you know, I have this honeycomb. Many humans have honeycomb minds, so it's not a bad thing. You know, it's not something to be ashamed of. You'll see, you know, some of the gifts that I have in terms of my intelligence. You know, you'll see certain things. Like sometimes my brain works too fast, where you'll see the discordant thought go from one thought, and then I'm gonna have to, let me get back to my thought and finish it. That's a part of, you could that's usually a sign that someone had been through some sort of dissociative tactic. That could be through certain frequencies being played when they were babies. Certain, you know, if you were listening to certain things and you were thinking something, they'll show you an image and then play a sound and then disrupt your fucking thought. They do that to babies, you know, and they'll see how quick that baby can get back. You know, they want to see how genius the child is. I was a genius child. You know, I've been told plenty of times I'm a genius. And so you'll see those are tend to be people, especially if they were in, like, say, wards of the state and all. Those tend to be people that dealt with honeycomb mind. And so sometimes you'll see, like, you know, we'll be covering it. If you listen to the way I talk very fast. It sounds like I'm anxious, you know, and then sometimes you'll see me go from, we'll be talking about a thought, I'll get into an example, and then I have to go back to the thought, or, you know, you'll see certain things like that. You'll also see the transcendental states of some of my esoteric channeling. All of that is a part of that. There's examples. Kanye West is an example of someone who went through that. Clearly, you know, you'll see he's someone that dealt with that. R. Kelly, you know, you'll see people, and sometimes it doesn't manifest sometimes it can manifest in a very shadow way, where, you know, it can have horrific effects because you're traumatizing children pretty much. And I'm not saying Kanye West was traumatized. I'm saying his was a bit different, where because his family has ties to Boule and Order. His family was more so on the Monarch Mentalism side, so where they understood that they're from a royal bloodline, from one. And so they tried to practice the original version of it, but they still, once he got into that industry, that's where his honeycomb mind started to happen, in terms of the fragmentation of messing up his thoughts that had handlers around him, like fucking with his mind. Same thing with Dave Chappelle. Like, sometimes your family will put you in, will allow these things to happen in terms of the direction through the soul contract of where you would be fed into, like, say, the entertainment system. And that's where it will start. Sometimes it doesn't start in childhood. Sometimes it will start right when you enter into that beast, and you have all these people around you trying to get you to sign stuff away, or they'll hold stuff from you, or tell you can't have this, say you can't do this, you can't do this, you can't do that. That's all a part of it too, to produce honeycomb mind. And so with Kanye West, they had handlers doing that, like messing with his thoughts. And so same with Michael Jackson went through honeycomb mind too. He had someone with honeycomb mind. Very genius businessman, very genius musician, very genius mind. But his started through more of the childhood as well, with the honeycomb aspect. So if you have people coming forward, you're going to see people coming forward talking about, you know, the systematic traumas that they went through via their bloodlines, and or you'll just notice this when you think yourself. You know, don't judge yourself. Transmute that into what it was originally for you to program and download your own desires, your own programs of what you want, your own archetypes that you want to work with, okay, the dimensions that you want to visit. And you take that and you tap into the genius aspect of what Monarch Mentalism was supposed to be originally for, not to have someone control you. Don't let people control you. Trust yourself full and foremost, and love yourself, and give yourself that self-confidence. I'm working on that. Trust in myself. believing in myself, working on and having that gnosis, that knowing of self. Not so much the belief part, but that knowing that the universe works in your favor, knowing that you don't need to be controlled, that you are fully capable of coming up with genius ideas, genius thoughts, perspectives, programs for yourself. That's the first step, okay? And so when we talk about the Nakhti philosophy, that would be one of the solutions in which you can do that. You do not have to believe in anything in the Nakhti philosophy. You do not have to decree and declare anything. You know what I mean? You could follow your current spiritual systems or current religions, whatever. But the Nakhti philosophy teaches how to undo those of us that have been in, you know, the dealt with MK Ultra or dealt with horrific programming or someone trying to control us. Also, if you haven't been a victim of that and you just want to understand your childhood better and work through some of the things that's currently going on in your mind, the Nakhti philosophy works with that as well. So it's just pretty much understanding the intricate processes of the mind and the profound influence of content that enters the mind. We call this V2. VITU. That just means content. And so that content that enters the mind, that is the programs and the downloads that's going to shape your consciousness. And so you're discerning the balance between letting consciousness guide the content or allowing the content to dictate your state of consciousness. And so that's why we talk about, you know, in the Nakhti philosophy, how you choose the content you want to enter your mind. What programs and downloads do you want to enter the mind? What archetypes do you want to enter the mind? What's currently in there? And so that's why when we tell you about the Chart to Yourself chart that you fill out, you're looking to see what serves your highest good, what childhood experiences served your highest good, what childhood experiences didn't serve your highest good. And you're looking at the chart through all chambers of the mind, and you are unlocking your consciousness through that self-assessment. You're doing a self-assessment of the chambers of self-chart. Okay, and there's 4 chambers. You got the files, the ROM, the hard drive, and the motherboard. Files is more like your conscious mind. That's the files that you have access to. The ROM is more like your subconscious mind, in a sense. That represents your memory, but it also represents things that, because subconscious mind is not the best word, but let's see, because I turned the word subconscious into prime conscious. So prime conscious would be more of a better term. And then you have your hard drive. Hard drive is your emotional body. That's your emotional body. It's not so much quite the etheric self, but it's the part that feels emotions. Emotions is a form of memory as well. And then you have the motherboard. That's your soul. Okay, so you have your prime conscious. Now your prime conscious is connected to your higher self. That's connected to the soul. This is all connected. And together that orchestrates your being. And so each chamber represents a facet of yourself, from your conscious to your prime conscious to your emotional to the ethereal. And that content is generated through our senses on this earthly plane. Okay, so while you have a physical body, your brain is always going to be inundated with content, with V2. Those are the programs. And as people try to put programs in you, right? And so you have to go in there and see what programs you want to undo, or what programs you want to add, or what programs you want to keep. That's all the Chart to Yourself chambers. That's all the chart does. Okay. And so once you're looking at this V2, the nature of content, which we call V2 in the Nakhti philosophy, is inherently dualistic and it's inherently impermanent. It is constantly changing. It is constantly in a state of flux. It never stays the same. The content always changes. The content of the mind always changes. Your state of consciousness changes. And it's constantly dualistic. Either you're going to have content that is inauspicious or auspicious. Okay? And it is that lack of acknowledgement of the nature of content of the mind that causes suffering. The lack of acknowledging that the content of the mind, the programs of the mind, is an inherently dualistic and it is inherently impermanent. Is that lack of awareness is what causes suffering. And that V2, the nature of V2, is what gives rise to fleeting moments of joy and sorrow. Because these are the programs that program your mind. And so it's constantly going to give rise to fleeting moments of joy and sorrow. And so the Nakhti philosophy deciphers those underlying causes of the ebb and flow. That's what the Chati of self, that's what the chambers of the Chati of self chart is going to teach you. What's causing the ebb and flow? What's causing the fleeting moments of joy and sorrow? Which content is causing it in the brain? And you're going to remove it, keep it, or add more. Add the one that you want to get to the state of consciousness that you want. Okay, so that non-acknowledgement, that lack of awareness of the content that is the nature of the content, impermanence and duality, and then identifying with it is what causes. That's really what causes the lack of unawareness that you see in humanity to this day. Identifying with content, identifying with the programs that enter the mind. Content enters the mind, content enters the self, but it is not the self. Okay? And what we're saying is, while you're in a physical body, you take control over the content that enters the mind. You program it. And this is why the powers that be are trying to take my ass out for them. So, because I'm sitting here teaching very powerful information that comes from the Godhead. Okay? And so, impermanence in the duality of the V2 is what causes that ebb and flow of joy and sorrow. That lack of acknowledgement is certainly, and then identifying with it causes states of misery. That what causes this lack of control regarding desires. And we all deal with it, And so you have to look at the through your chart. You list all the things in your life that has happened on that chart. And you see, was it auspicious? Was it benefit to you? Was it inauspicious? Do you want to keep it or do you want to get rid of it? And recognize that it is not you. Look at that content on that chart, and it's not me. And I can remove these memories. I can become unattached. You remove it by becoming unattached to it. You unshackle yourselves with the cycle of identification. That's how you liberate your essence from the confines of the content of the mind. That is how you transcend. That is how you become a chaos intelligence being. This was given to me. I wrote this. If I told you the conditions under which I wrote this, you wouldn't believe it. You wouldn't believe it anyways. But I know for a fact that this came from God. And I know for a fact that, because I know that for one, the condition, I feel it too, I'm still somewhat in a state where I don't even want to tell you the conditions under which I wrote it. Because it'll be like, there's no way. And I have the rights to I have the federal copyrighted documents proving that I came up with this. It's published under me. It's published under Jenny. It's published, I have certificate from that says that I am the sole creator and author of this, But obviously for the earthly realm, but I know that it was certainly given to me from God. That I know. Because the humans are dealing with subliminal forms of Monarch programming, various forms of FMK Ultra. They're dealing with brainwashing. They're brainwashed. They're identifying with the content of the mind that enters their mind. 24/7 propaganda, social engineering. And some people, not all, may want a way to transmute that. They may want a way to transmute the childhood trauma that they've been through. And so that's why God created this for us. For me personally, for someone who's been a victim of this stuff, but also for others as well. And again, I don't push my stuff on anybody. I wouldn't care if one person, read it or didn't read it. My thing is, I put it out there. It's out there. As a chaos intelligence being, I came down. You put it out there. Set the record straight. Whatever you want to do with it, because there's other orders. There's other things in play on this planet. That's above our pay grade as far as the other steps. Everybody playing a part in a movie role, right? So this is just the part I'm playing. Okay, but an emphasis, with the Nakhti philosophy, once you go through that chart, it's a whole book on this. It's a whole book. You go through after you figure out which one you want to keep and which one you want to remove. You go through the transmutation process in terms of the V2. That's where the transformation. This is the deliberate selection of auspicious content that aligns with your desires, that empowers you to choose the driver for your consciousness. And that's where the pyramid of Kupanda comes in. It guides your ascent. You learn to, you choose which kind of state of being you want to be in. Okay, so you can see this pyramid of Kupanda and what all of that means. Okay, do you want to just be at the earth level? Do you want to be at the base level? Do you want to be at the magician level? Do you want to be at the mindful level? Do you want to be at the wisdom level? Do you want to be at the highest level, the Kupinda transcendent level, where V2 does not enter the Chakti itself? You are beyond content. You are beyond programming. You are beyond desires. You are mind behind mind. You are enlightened. Not everybody going to be at that level. Not everybody concerned about it. Maybe you're just at the mindful level. Maybe you just want to be at the magician level. You know, and so in a book, there's certain suggested V2, and in the book it says add the V2. I just put some in it so you can see examples, so it can help you better. It's not to tell you what to do, it's more so that you can just see an example so that you choose, because again, anything on this earth that inundates your motherfucking brain is V2, is content. And so you would choose that V2 and go through that transmutation period. So how would you do that? Through the Giza Mama meditations, through accessing the primordial realm meditation. Okay, and there's a process on how you do that in the book. You don't have to do the meditations, because there's other ways to be honest. Just the simple. This was if you don't want to do meditation, you don't have to. But like, a simple way to transmute is just to not identify with it and acknowledging the nature of content. I promise you, this is all intergalactic mentalism. You ain't gotta pray, sit on your knees and fast. And you gotta, if you want to do that. But what I'm saying is, all you need to do is understand that the nature of content, the nature of anything that programs your mind, is dualistic and impermanent, and you do not identify with it. That right there puts you in a fucking driver's seat. That is what's going to allow you to choose which content you want to. Once you acknowledge that, now you can choose what program you want in your mind. Simple as that. And then you can start to manifest and work on it. Now, if you want the meditation, because say you have more traumas, and you want to access that primordial realm of the Dark Mother, that is when you would do the diaphragmatic, the work, the equanimity meditation. And that's particularly for those who really want to get to like the transcendent level. But again, it's not required. You know, for anybody that's interested, please support that work. You can. It is available for free, but I would highly appreciate if you just support it by purchasing it as well. That will help me. But I did go ahead and give this out for free because I felt it so deeply in my soul. I'm 100 years ahead of my time. I'm possibly even a couple hundred years. But I think once humanity awakens and it hits them what has been done to them, and they see me talking about my story and what happened with me, and now many other humans are going to realize that they're in the same boat. I think that people would see possibly, you know, the value of it maybe a couple hundred years from now. But I certainly made this for humanity. It was a gift to humanity, and so that's my service. You know, everybody is in. You know, part of leadership is service. When you're a leader, you're doing more serving than anything. But that doesn't mean you let people take advantage of you, right? But because many people have been trying to do that to me as well within the last 3 years, is completely deceive and take advantage and take my essence or try to wear my gifts and all this stuff and weird shit. So you have to be careful with that. And so for those who have dealt with fragmentation of the mind, your sensitive soul, your pure soul, then Nakhti philosophy would also help you strengthen, you know, the meditation, the Giza Mama meditation of the Dark Mother. She strengthens you. Kali strengthens. You know, the Creator God strengthens you. For those of us who have that softness in our personality naturally. For those that have dealt with fragmentation of the mind. And so, you know, look at this chart, fill out the Chambers of Self chart, consider which content of the mind is auspicious and auspicious, understand the nature of V2. Remember that it is impermanent, It is dualistic. It causes fleeting perceptions of happiness and distress, and that these emotions are constantly in a state of flux. And the reason why they're in a state of flux is because this non-acknowledgement and identifying with that V2. Okay, so impermanence plus duality equals V2, and identifying with V2 equals fleeting perceptions of happiness and distress. So what do? You recognize the nature of it and you don't identify with it. Then you assess your chamber of self chart. You can see how these experiences and emotions change constantly. Just from looking at your chart, once you fill out your chart, you're going to see that it's dualistic and it's impermanent. Just boom, and that's right off the stuff that enters your fucking brain. Okay? And that allows you to perceive the V2 as auspicious or inauspicious. We all go through ups and downs, and your chart is going to detail that. Okay? And then step 3, once again, you don't want to do the meditation, that's fine, but do not identify with the content of the mind. V2 enters the self, but it is not the self. Everything outside of ourselves is influenced by V2, what we call content. And while you're in a physical body, especially during childhood, okay, while you're in a physical body, you're going to see all types of V2 enter your diffuse chamber of the self. People are going to identify with their race, their degrees, their occupation. That's V2. It's outside the self, but it is not the self. You're not your degree. You're not your race. It's V2. It's just content. It's just bullshit. I won't say bullshit, but it's the content. So recognize the fleeting perceptions of happiness and distress that is associated with the impermanent and dualistic nature of V2, and don't identify with it. Then choose the V2 that you want for your transmutation. This is a conscious selection. Choose the auspicious content that's going to align with your desire and with the state of consciousness that you want that's on that pyramid of Kupanda. Then you're going to transmute that the inauspicious content that you don't want in the chati of self chart by organization of the chamber of self. That is your mental energy, your physical energy, your ethereal energy, your emotional energy, and you're going to point that in the direction of the new V2. Okay? The transmute. You're going to point it, once you choose what you want on that pyramid of Kupanda, that's going to help you identify less with the V2. And once you choose the V2 that you consciously want to use in the chamber of self chart, once you choose that V2, you're going to make sure that all mental, physical, and ethereal and emotional energy points to the new V2 that you want in the chart of self chart. Okay? And that is what's going to alter your mind, change your state of consciousness, and push you in the direction that you want to go into. And then step 6, if you want to, you do your Gisa Mama meditation. Okay? And so this is Nakhti philosophy. We're going to do some more on this. Please get the book. We're going to do a lot more on this. If you have dealing with fragmentation of mind. If you don't deal with fragmentation of mind, and you just want to raise in consciousness, choose the V2. You want to know about this interdimensional, this monarch, because we're giving baby food out. We're giving them baby food, but this is what humans need. Humans have to nurture themselves at this time and baby themselves at this time. You have to kind of be in a self-care mode at this time. It hasn't hit you how traumatized you guys are as humanity. I mean, you should just look at the state of your world. I mean, you could just look at the state of Africa, look at the state of, things Black Americans are dealing with, the things that the world is dealing with, the wars, and you could just look at this. It hasn't hit you how traumatized you are collective as humanity, but God sees it. Okay, and so you're going to see angels, chaos intelligence beings such as myself. I am higher than an angel. But you're going to see some of us come down here and just drop off material, very powerful material. That doesn't mean you're going to follow it. And if you guys, don't if you guys, ignore it or whatever, what's going to happen is that the powers that be, or whoever's trying to get in power and run the system, is going to take it, make it a cult, esoteric information, and you won't get access to it. And that is what they're trying to do with my stuff right now. There are secret societies that are actively trying to take these teachings of the Nakhti philosophy and make sure that they don't see the light of day, and that they keep it for themselves and oh, she's talking about this monarch mental and use it for them to stay in power, and y'all asses won't ever see the day of light. That's why I made it free for that particular reason. And I had to change over my will, and nobody is the heir to my will anymore, because my family, there were people that were gonna be in on the burying of this material. So nobody is an heir to my will. What else? All of my teachings in publishing has to go under the Nakhti Church of the Higher Self Estate. I know you guys are like probably like, oh, this is just way too much. I told you it was gonna be a heavy ass video. Part 6 was gonna be real heavy. So it's heavy. It's 6. Okay.